I'm Mark Callahan, Mr. Saltwater Tank, and this is Mr. Saltwater Tank TV. We all get into saltwater aquariums to enjoy the beauty and the fish and the corals inside of them. And nothing's worse when you have a tank and something's always going wrong with it. So this episode of Mr. Saltwater Tank TV is going to be about how to problem solve and treat problem tanks. Specifically, we're going to talk about tanks that have fish that are constantly dying. Because nothing's worse in my book than having a fish die. I take it very personally. I feel like the fish should be left in the ocean as opposed to dying under my watch. So today we're going to get up close and personal with a tank that's having that very problem, and I'm going to show you how I solved it. Derek, your tank looks pretty good to me. Tell me what's going on with it and tell me more about your tank overall.
All right, it's 185 gallons. I've got several fish in here, and it's been difficult to keep the nitrates low without having to do like a 40 to 50% water change every week. I just do about 10 to 15% every week is where I want to keep it. I don't want to have to do more than that just to keep everything healthy.
I know you're a tank nut. You're a self-admitting tank junkie.
Yeah.
Tell me about all the tanks that you have in here now.
I've got an orange shoulder tang, a purple tang, a yellow tang, a Nassau tang, and a regal tang.
Wow. So lots of tanks, and they're not all small, it looks like.
Yeah, no, not all of them are small. only the regal tang is small.
So you're having a high nitrate problem. You said you've been doing large water changes and that hasn't helped.
Yeah, it's like I've been trying to do like one 50-gallon water change every month and just sticking with the 25-gallon water changes every week. But it hasn't helped the nitrates stay around at 40 or 50.
Wow.
And they need to be much lower than that for things to not lose their color.
So remember you and I talking, you were losing a fair amount of fish as well.
Yeah, they just weren't fighting off things that they normally would. Like they would get ick, but they wouldn't be able to fight it off, or get like a little infection from getting a scratch, and they just weren't fighting it off as easily as they were before.
For Derek's tank, I knew he was overstocked, but I didn't stop there. I looked over his whole system, and his skimmer was underrated for his tank, and his aquascaping was very closed, which meant that the detritus was getting stuck in and on his rocks. Trapped detritus only adds to nitrate issues. Here's a key point to troubleshooting a problem tank. Always make sure that your test kits are very, very accurate. If you use an inaccurate test kit, you're going to get an inaccurate result, which can lead you down the wrong path when it comes to finding out what's wrong with that tank. Here's an example of what happened to me once. I once had two nitrate tests from the same manufacturer. I ran a nitrate test on a tank. One of those kits gave me a reading of 0. The other one gave me a reading of 20. 0 and 20 are two wildly different results. Now, if I had only gotten the 0 result from that one test, I would have said, no, there's no nitrates in this tank. That's not the problem. I would have gone somewhere else and probably not found the real problem that was wrong with that tank. So always make sure that your test kits are very, very accurate. For that reason, that's why I use my hand checkers whenever I can when I'm dealing with a problem tank. Their accuracy is unmatched. I don't have to count any drops. I don't have to match any color cards. I get a number on a screen. I know what I'm dealing with, and I can go on from there. I knew I wanted to re-aquascape his tank, which meant pulling out all the rocks. So when I pulled out all the rocks out of his tank, that was a perfect time for me to catch the excess fish. I ended up removing 7 fish from his tank, which solved the overstocking issue. Then I re-aquascaped his tank to give it a much more open design and feel. Now detritus flows down into his sump and can be pulled out with water changes and his skimmer. A very important part to dealing with problem tanks is that you have to have patience. You need to make a change and then give it a couple weeks to see how that change affected your tank. Don't think you're going to make a change on Monday and on Wednesday have your problem tank all fixed up. It takes patience. Give it time, see how it affects your tank before making a decision and moving on to the next step. Derek, we've rearranged your rock work. We got rid of some of your heavy bioload fish. Tell me how the tank's doing.
The tank's doing great. Everything's been really thriving since we made the changes. All of the corals have opened up a lot more. Even some of the fish's color has come back.
You're not losing any fish?
I'm not losing any. I haven't lost any coral or anything.
That's a nice change.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, and it's cheaper.
And less heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Sounds to me like you're enjoying your tank again, as opposed to dreading it, not even wanting to look in its general direction.
Yeah, for a while it was really bad. I just kind of didn't want to mess with it because it, it's kind of heartbreaking to sit down and try to enjoy it when it's not looking good or stuff is sick.
Yeah. So your tank's looking better, you're enjoying it more. You're never done in the saltwater aquarium world. There's always the next thing to do. So what's the next big thing for the tank?
Next thing I want to do is just get new lighting. Probably just get a few different corals, start getting them growing, and just see what happens.
A key point to keep in mind when dealing with problem tanks is that there's no magic bullet or single fix. Problem tanks require a multi-pronged approach. In Derek's case, if I had him just scale back on the number of fish in his tank, then over time his nitrates would have crept back up again. We would have been back to square one. That's why I had him also upgrade his protein skimmer and rearrange his rock work. He made 3 changes in his tank. He also gave it plenty of time to see how those changes took. Now he has a thriving tank again, and he's happy. Now, if you want to get into my head a little bit, see how I think, I made a flowchart for you where you can actually see how to approach a tank that has a fish die-off problem. To get that flowchart, go to mrsaltwatertank.com/problemtanks. I'm Mark Callahan, Mr. Saltwater Tank. This has been Mr. Saltwater Tank TV. Until next time, have a good one, enjoy your tanks, and know your tank personality.